9 out of 10 people shopping for a used Mazda have no idea which models are hidden gems and which ones are quiet nightmares. That sleek Mazda on the lot for a great price? It might be the worst financial decision you make this year. That one your friend calls boring? It might run for 300,000 miles without blinking. Number 21 is a car that looks exciting but destroys wallets. Number 1 is the model mechanics quietly buy for their own families. Let us get into it. Number 21, 2004 to 2008. Mazda RX-8. Let us start with the one that hurts to say out loud. The RX-8 is gorgeous. The high-revving Renesis rotary engine sounds unlike anything else on the road, and for many Mazda fans, it is an emotional favorite. The Renesis engine requires specific maintenance that conventional engine owners never think about. You need to top up oil between changes, not just at changes. The engine must reach full operating temperature before shutdown. Cold starts followed immediately by shutdown cause flooding. Apex seals wear. Catalytic converters fail prematurely. The car achieves roughly 18 miles per gallon on a good day. For the average used car buyer picking one up at a bargain price, the maintenance learning curve is steep, and the repair bills for an unmaintained example are brutal. Buy one only if you're going in with both eyes open. Speaking of engines that demand respect, the next entry on this list has a different kind of problem, one that surprises almost every owner who buys one. Number 20, 2000 to 2003, Mazda Protege 5. The Protege 5 was a genuinely fun compact wagon at a time when compact wagons were rare and cool. Sporty suspension, a willing engine, and wagon practicality made it stand out. Time has not been kind to this generation. Rust is the headline issue. These cars rust aggressively in northern and coastal climates, particularly along the rear wheel arches, subframes, and floor pans. Many have rust that has progressed beyond cosmetic concern into structural territory. If you find a rust-free southern example that has been well maintained, it can still be rewarding. But those are rare. For most buyers, the rust situation makes them a risky proposition. The next car on our list actually solved the rust problem but introduced a different set of headaches that caught owners completely off guard. If this ranking is already making you rethink a Mazda purchase, hit that subscribe button right now. We are just getting started and things are about to get very interesting. Number 19, 2003 to 2008, Mazda 6 First Generation. The first generation, Mazda 6 was ambitious, sharp styling, a driver-focused interior, and genuinely good handling dynamics. But the 2003 to 2008 generation built up a reputation problem over time. Carbon buildup in the intake manifold became a known issue on higher mileage examples. Water pump failures arrived earlier than they should have. The automatic transmission was not the smooth, durable unit Mazda later developed. The driving experience was genuinely engaging, but the long-term reliability record of this generation sits below what Mazda achieved in later iterations of the same nameplate. The miles matter more on this one than almost any other Mazda from this era. What comes next is a nameplate most people overlook entirely, and that is exactly why the story gets complicated. Number 18, 2006 to 2010, Mazda 5. The Mazda 5 is one of the most underrated vehicles Mazda ever made, a compact sliding door minivan that drove like a car, parked like a compact, and carried 6 people. So why is it this low on the ranking? Not because it was unreliable, it was actually quite solid mechanically. The issue is that this generation of Mazda 5, particularly the 2006 to 2010 run, suffered from a specific and frustrating set of ownership annoyances. The sliding doors developed rattles and binding mechanisms with age. The interior materials wore poorly. The 2.3-liter engine was adequate, but never exciting, and fuel economy was only average for its class. More importantly, parts availability for this generation has become genuinely challenging. It was not a high-volume seller, and the supply of affordable used parts has thinned considerably. It still deserves credit as an innovative vehicle. But for owners today, the combination of aging mechanisms and parts challenges puts it lower than its mechanical reputation would suggest. The next car had a different problem entirely. It was mechanically excellent, but the ownership experience had one specific flaw that owners remember for years. Number 17, 2007 to 2009, Mazda CX-7. The CX-7 looked the part. Aggressive styling, a turbocharged engine, and an SUV body that genuinely turned heads. The turbocharged MZR engine, when properly maintained, could be strong and rewarding. When maintenance was deferred, the turbocharger wore prematurely. Oil consumption became a known complaint. Timing chain tensioners were another documented failure point. Diligent owners had mostly good experiences. Inattentive owners had expensive ones. Buying one today requires a careful pre-purchase inspection with particular attention to the turbo, oil consumption rate, and timing system. Coming up next is a vehicle that many people have written off unfairly, and the actual ownership data tells a completely different story than the reputation suggests. Number 16. 2002 to 2006. Mazda MPV. The Mazda MPV minivan tends to get dismissed because minivans get dismissed in general. That is a mistake for buyers on a budget. The 2002 to 2006 generation was built with a solid 3-liter V6 engine that proved genuinely durable. Transmission reliability was reasonable, the sliding doors worked, the weaknesses were predictable. Intake manifold gaskets needed attention over time. Power sliding door mechanisms could develop binding with age. Rust was a concern in salt belt states. These are old vehicles now, and finding well-maintained examples is getting harder, but the V6 engine, when maintained, has serious longevity. They are not exciting. They work. The next vehicle is from a completely different part of the Mazda lineup, and it represents one of the most confusing splits in the brand's reliability record. If you are learning something here, drop a comment with which Mazda you currently own or are thinking about buying. We rid every single one. Number 15. 2004 to 2009. Mazda 3 First Generation. The first generation. Mazda 3 launched to enormous enthusiasm, sharper to drive than anything in its class. Interior quality surprised people. What earned this generation a middle-tier placement is rust. It became a documented problem, particularly on rear suspension components and the rear subframe in northern climates. Mazda issued extended warranties in some markets. Many owners in the Rust Belt found their 3s developing significant underbody corrosion earlier than expected. For a buyer in a warm, dry climate, a well-maintained first-generation 3 is still a good car. For everyone else, the rust issue requires serious evaluation before purchase. Now we start moving into the genuinely strong territory. The next vehicle on our list is one that mechanics specifically recommend when asked for a reliable used buy under a certain price point. Number 14. 2014 to 2018. Mazda 3 Third Generation. The third generation. Mazda 3 represents the moment Mazda got serious about interior quality and overall refinement in a way the brand had never quite achieved before. The Skyactiv G engines in this generation, the 2-liter and 2.5-liter units, are stronger and more refined than anything Mazda produced before them. Oil change intervals stretch to 7,500 miles with full synthetic. Timing chains replace timing belts. The fundamentals were right. The biggest concern with this generation is the infotainment system. The early MZD Connect system aged poorly and became a frustration point for many owners. Screen responsiveness degraded over time. Software updates helped some owners more than others. The other thing worth noting is that these cars absorbed a significant jump in price relative to earlier generations. The value equation, while still reasonable, is not as dramatic as it was with the older 3s. Mechanically, the third generation 3 is excellent. If you can live with an infotainment system that shows its age, this is a very strong car. What comes next is the car that arguably put Mazda back on the map as a serious contender, and the ownership record backs up the hype completely. Number 13. 2008 to 2012. Mazda 6 Second Generation. The second generation, Mazda 6 addressed almost every complaint owners had about the first generation. The engine options improved significantly. The interior quality took a genuine step forward. Reliability improved across the board. The 2.5-liter 4-cylinder in this generation is a particular highlight. It is smooth, reasonably efficient, and has a strong long-term reliability record when maintained correctly. Owners regularly report these engines running cleanly past 150,000 miles with nothing more than routine service. The automatic transmission improved over the first generation, but still attracted some criticism for sluggish response compared to Honda and Toyota competitors of the same era. The V6 option, while powerful, added complexity and fuel costs that most owners found hard to justify. What earns this generation a solid ranking is the combination of a genuinely good 4-cylinder powertrain, improved rust resistance over the first generation, and a driving experience that still holds up well today. Now we are into the top 12, and the next entry is one that gets underestimated constantly in used car conversations. Number 12. 2007 to 2012. Mazda CX-9. First generation, the first generation. CX-9 holds up better as a family hauler than most people expect. The 3.7-liter V6 engine is strong, smooth, and has a genuinely good reliability record. Owners who maintain these properly frequently drove well past 200,000 miles without major drama. The weaknesses are real. Fuel economy is poor by modern standards. The third row is tight for adults. The infotainment technology feels archaic, but it is now cheap, very cheap. A well-maintained example with documented service history represents serious value for a family that needs 3 rows and does not need the latest technology. The next vehicle on our list is one that changed how the automotive world looked at Mazda, and it was overdue. Number 11, 2013 to 2016. Mazda CX-5 First Generation. The first generation, CX-5 was the car that proved Skyactiv technology was not just a marketing exercise. A crossover SUV achieving over 30 miles per gallon on the highway with a naturally aspirated engine and no hybrid system was genuinely impressive, and it drove better than any crossover in its class had a right to. It earns number 11 rather than higher for a specific reason. The early MZD Connect infotainment implementation was clunky and looked outdated within just a few years of launch. Mechanically, this generation is very strong. The Skyactiv engines have accumulated a long track record of reliability. Rust resistance improved dramatically over earlier Mazda generations. As a used buy today, it is excellent value. Now we are getting into the cars that mechanics genuinely get excited about. The next one might surprise you. Number 10. 2010 to 2013. Mazda 3 Second Generation. The second generation. Mazda 3 refined everything. The first generation got right and solved most of what it got wrong. The Skyactiv engines arrived mid-cycle in this generation and transformed the efficiency picture. The 2-liter Skyactiv G returned fuel economy numbers that embarrassed much of the competition while delivering a genuinely engaging driving experience. The interior quality improved meaningfully. The rust issues that plagued the first generation were addressed. The reason this generation does not crack the top 8 is primarily the timing. The early non-Skyactiv examples in this generation carry some of the same concerns as the last first-generation models, and the infotainment system, while better than before, still showed limitations. The sweet spot in this generation is a 2012 or 2013 example with the Skyactiv engine and a clean service history. Those cars represent among the best value in the entire used Mazda market today. Comment below, which generation Mazda 3 do you own? We want to know what your experience has been. The next car is one that polarized people when it launched. Years later, the data has settled the argument conclusively. Number 9, 2013 to 2018. Mazda 6 Third Generation. The third generation. Mazda 6 is where Mazda finally fully figured out the midsize sedan formula. The styling was stunning at launch and has aged beautifully. The interior quality genuinely challenged European competitors at a fraction of the price. The 2.5-liter Skyactiv engine proved smooth, efficient, and durable. Long-term reliability data on this generation has been very positive. Owners regularly see 150,000 miles without significant unplanned expenditure. What keeps it at number 9 rather than higher is that rear seat room is noticeably tighter than the Camry or Accord, and resale values face headwinds from the broader market's SUV preference. As a driving experience and a reliability proposition, this is one of the best midsize sedans of its era. Full stop. Next up is a vehicle category Mazda arguably does better than anyone at this price point, and the numbers prove it. Subscribe right now and hit the bell. We rank vehicles across every major brand, and the next series is going to settle arguments people have been having for years. Do not miss it. Number 8, 2017 to 2023. Mazda CX-5 Second Generation. The second generation, CX-5, cemented Mazda's reputation as the premium alternative in the mainstream crossover segment. The interior quality made people stop and look twice. The soft touch materials, clean design, and quality of the switchgear felt like something from a German brand at a Japanese brand price point. Long-term reliability data on the naturally aspirated version has been excellent. The iActive AWD system has proven durable. The reason it sits at number 8 rather than higher is that the turbo variant introduced complexity that some owners found frustrating, and the infotainment ergonomics still drew criticism despite major improvements over earlier Mazda systems. For a naturally aspirated second-generation CX-5 with a clean history, this is about as safe a used crossover purchase as exists in the current market. The next vehicle is one that flew almost completely under the radar when it launched, and that anonymity might be its greatest asset. Number 7, 2012 to 2015. Mazda CX-5, first generation late build. We are separating the late build first generation CX-5 specifically because the 2014 and 2015 model years represent a particularly clean ownership proposition. By this point in the first generation's run, Mazda had resolved early production concerns, the Skyactiv powertrain had accumulated real-world validation, and the build quality consistency improved noticeably over the initial launch examples. The 2.5-liter Skyactiv G engine in these years has a long track record. Owners routinely exceed 200,000 miles. The fuel economy remains competitive even by current standards. The AWD system, when serviced correctly, is reliable and effective. These cars are now in a price range where they offer exceptional value. The technology is dated compared to current vehicles, but the mechanical fundamentals are among the best Mazda produced in this generation. A 2014 or 2015 CX-5 with full service records is one of the safest used SUV purchases in any price bracket. Mechanics buy these for family members. What is coming next shocked people when it was announced and continues to impress everyone who drives one. Number 6. 2019 to present. Mazda 3 4th generation. The 4th generation. Mazda 3 is a genuinely beautiful car. The Kodo design language reached a new level of sophistication with this generation. It looks more expensive than anything in its price bracket. But looks are not why it earns number 6. The Skyactiv X engine option in some markets brought a unique spark-controlled compression ignition system that was genuinely novel engineering. Even without the Skyactiv X, the standard Skyactiv G engines in this generation are refined, efficient, and built on a now thoroughly proven reliability record. The AWD system available on certain trim levels addressed a long-standing criticism of the Mazda 3 and made it genuinely competitive in climates where all-wheel drive matters. Interior quality in this generation is remarkable for the price. The materials, the layout, the quietness at highway speed, all of it competes with cars costing significantly more. The only meaningful criticism is that rear visibility is compromised by the sweeping roofline, and the infotainment system, while much improved, still requires adjustment for drivers used to touchscreen interfaces. As a new or nearly new purchase, the 4th generation Mazda 3 is one of the strongest value propositions in the compact segment. It punches well above its weight class in every area that matters for daily ownership. 3 spots left, and these 3 are the ones mechanics argue over most passionately, starting right now. Number 5, 2016 to 2023. Mazda CX-9 2nd generation. The 2nd generation CX-9 rebuilt everything the 1st generation got, right on a modern platform with a turbocharged 4-cylinder and substantially better interior quality. The 2.5-liter turbocharged Skyactiv T engine achieves fuel economy the old V6 could never approach. When maintained correctly with attention to oil change intervals and turbo warm down, it has shown strong durability. The interior quality on premium trims competes directly with luxury brand SUVs at a fraction of the cost. The reason it sits at 5 is that the turbocharged engine introduces more variables than a naturally aspirated unit, and some higher mileage examples have reported carbon buildup. It also represents Mazda at a higher price point, which changes the value calculus. For a family that needs genuine 3-row space and wants to avoid the premium brand tax, this is one of the best options available. The top 4. This is where the real conversation starts. Number 4, 2016 to present. Mazda MX-5 Miata 4th generation. The ND generation. Miata is the most reliable sports car you can buy at any price. That is not an opinion. That is what the data says. Low complexity, a proven naturally aspirated engine, a 6-speed manual with decades of refinement behind it, and a weight that means the mechanical components are never under serious stress. The 2-liter Skyactiv G engine has essentially no known systemic failure points. It does not consume oil excessively. It just runs. The reason it sits at 4 rather than higher is purely practical. It seats 2 people. The boot holds approximately the same volume as a large backpack. It is not a vehicle for families or commuters who need cargo space. For the right owner, it is one of the best vehicles Mazda has ever made, period. But the right owner has specific requirements that most daily drivers do not share. 3 vehicles left, starting right now with the one that consistently earns the highest recommendation from mechanics who own Mazdas themselves. Number 3, 2019 to present. Mazda CX-30. The CX-30 arrived in a crowded subcompact crossover segment and immediately distinguished itself from every other option in the class. The platform it shares with the 4th generation Mazda 3 brings genuine driving dynamics to a crossover body that typically sacrifices engagement for practicality. The Skyactiv G engines are proven. The AWD system is sophisticated and effective. The interior quality, as with all current generation Mazdas, outclasses what the price tag should deliver. Long-term reliability data on early CX-30 examples has been very positive. Engine issues are rare. Engine. Transmission reliability is strong. The electronics, while more complex than older Mazdas, have not generated the volume of complaints that comparable technology in competing brands has produced. The CX-30 sits at 3 because it represents the current Mazda formula at its most refined and accessible. You get all of the quality, reliability, and driving experience that current Mazda engineering delivers in a practical, affordable package, with a growing body of real-world ownership data supporting its reputation. The criticism that holds it from the top two is cargo space. The CX-30 is genuinely snug in the boot. For buyers who regularly carry significant cargo, the CX-5 remains a more practical choice. 2 vehicles left, and the arguments have been raging for years about which one belongs at the top. Number 2. 2017 to present, Mazda CX-5, naturally aspirated. If you asked 100 mechanics which Mazda they would personally recommend to a family member with no particular automotive interest, the majority would say a naturally aspirated second-generation CX-5 every time. The reason is simple. It represents the intersection of everything Mazda does well, at a price point that makes sense, with a reliability record that has been validated by real-world ownership across hundreds of thousands of examples. The 2.5-liter Skyactiv G engine has now accumulated well over a decade of production history. Its failure modes are well understood and mostly limited to deferred maintenance consequences. When serviced correctly, it just runs, and runs, and runs. The interior quality, especially from the 2019 refresh, is remarkable. The iActive AWD system, now on its second generation of development in this platform, is sophisticated and reliable. Fuel economy is competitive. Safety ratings are strong across the board. The reason it sits at 2 rather than 1 is a single practical reality. For a buyer who wants the absolute safest, most time-tested, best-supported Mazda ownership experience in a practical daily driver body, there is one vehicle that edges it out, and here it is. Number 1. 2014 to 2018, Mazda 3 third generation with Skyactiv G. This is the one. It earns number 1 because it is the best combination of proven reliability, driving enjoyment, low ownership cost, and accessibility that Mazda has ever produced. The data backs every part of that statement. The Skyactiv G engines in this generation do not consume oil excessively. They do not develop systemic failures at predictable mileage points. They respond well to basic maintenance and continue running past 200,000 miles in documented examples on a regular basis. The driving experience is the other half of the story. This car is genuinely fun to drive in a way that the Corolla and Civic of the same era simply are not. The steering communicates. The chassis responds. Owners keep these cars longer than the segment average because they actually enjoy driving them. At current used market prices, a clean 2016 Mazda 3 hatchback with the Skyactiv 2.5 engine and a full-service history is one of the best used car purchases available at any price point from any brand. Mechanics who own Mazdas personally drive this one. 21 vehicles, ranked honestly with no agenda except the truth. Mazda has produced some genuine duds over the years. They have also produced some of the most reliable, rewarding vehicles available at mainstream prices. The difference between a great Mazda ownership experience and a painful one almost always comes down to which model you chose and whether the maintenance history is documented. Choose the right one, check the records, and enjoy the drive. Hey, thanks for watching. If this ranking helped you make a better buying decision, let us know in the comments. Want to see us rank another model the same way? Click on the left. And if you do not want to miss rankings like this for every major brand, hit that subscribe button right now.